Ah yes, Burning Abyss, the perfect archetype for Scottish man-children around the world.
No! No! No, I don't want to use snow again!
Released in Duelist Alliance as a TCG exclusive in August of 2014, this archetype of heroes, deities, and demons plucked from Dante's Inferno were immortalized into the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game for competitive play. Despite one of the coolest aesthetics and lore in the entire game, we've got to ask, how good was Burning Abyss actually? Right out of the gate, Burning Abyss immediately started taking names, and for 3 reasons. One of which was its consistency. Even in modern variants, the core of monsters being played has barely shifted, and nearly all of these monsters contribute to their primary game plan of setting up Dante thanks to free specials from the hand, or rank 3 enablers such as Tour Guide from the Underworld. The second is its stickiness. The BAs are designed to have beneficial effects when sent to the graveyard, which range from searching to most notoriously, floating. Having massive Dante, Graph, Seer, and Scarm chains is what made playing against this deck feel so infuriating at times, and usually, there was never a clean out to the defense position Dante. And third was thanks to its unique trap interactions. Cards such as Karma Cut and Phoenix Wing Wind Blast not only active as defensive cards, but enabled furthering one's game state thanks to the aforementioned graveyard effects. These factors ultimately combined into a tier 1 deck alongside Shaddoll and later on Cleafort. However, this deck was not unbeatable. The deck it struggled against the most was undeniably the best deck of its format, Shaddoll. Shaddoll Fusion remains to this day one of the most powerful fusion spells of all time, and in a format as advantage focused as Duelist Alliance, going +3 or even +4 off of a single card when your opponent had nearly no meaningful counterplay for it should speak volumes for why it was so amazing. To make matters worse, El Shaddoll Window was an incredibly good threat against Burning Abyss. It was amazing against BA specifically since the deck needed multiple summons in order to get its engine running. Additionally, cards such as Alich and Farfa wouldn't be released until late 2014 and early 2015 respectively, meaning that BA didn't have any in-engine out to Winda outside of beating over her and hoping that the doll player couldn't make another one. To make matters worse, Shaddoll Window was actually immune to destruction effects, meaning cards such as Raigeki Break were ultimately useless and placed heavy reliance on discard traps such as Karma Cut and Wing Blast. This led to a heavy influx of players playing generic non-engine cards in order to get around Winda and outpace Shaddolls. Cards such as Vanity's Fiend, Dimensional Prison, Chaos Trap Hole, and even Supply Squad were played extensively. However, the deck wouldn't see its first win without the help of Konami with both the ban list and the printing of the new challengers. The biggest hit was Super Polymerization going from 3 to 1. One of Shaddoll's key removal spells and OTK enablers was what made the deck severely less consistent. Being able to fuse with itself or with its opponent's monsters in the battle phase pre-El Shaddoll fusion was what made the deck so deadly if you weren't prepared. Secondly, the new challengers were released and the Cleaforts came in hot. With Tribute Summon Cleese to counter Shaddoll Construct's destruction effect and no longer having consistent access to Super Poly to make Shekanaga with opposing Cleese, Shaddolls went from a deck with favorable matchups across the board to one that could hold its own but more in the vein of a 50-50. Additionally, BA would receive a ton of support in this set. Alich was amazing at being able to negate windows when sent, Cowcab was back row removal, and the deck got even a synchro engine with Rubik, a BA tuner, and Virgil, Rockstar of the Burning Abyss, who acted as a spin at the quote-unquote cost of discarding a BA, an excellent counter versus any Shaddoll fusion. And to top it all off, Fire Lake of the Burning Abyss was released, one of the craziest trap cards ever printed, allowing BA players to essentially go +5 or even more thanks to its huge destruction effect and the massive float chains you'd able to get off of a Dante and whatever BAs were sent as a result. This decrease in power for Shaddolls and the release of cards and decks out for Construct's Blood would lead to Patrick Hoban and Barrett Keys placing first and second respectively at Anaheim with Burning Abyss, ending the year with 62 premier tops in just a 3-month period from September to December. Overall, BA ended the 2014 season immortalized as one of the greatest decks of the era. At the start of the new year, Burning Abyss is still swinging just as hard as ever. With the release of even more BA support in Secrets of Eternity in mid-January in the form of Farfa, Livic, and Kagna, the deck secured not only 19 top cuts at Charleston, but a win under Jonathan Gomez. Some decks opted for a Mask Change 2 package to summon out Darklaw, a development that would soon become more and more standard in no small part due to one of the biggest deck build sets ever released, the Secret Forces. This set introduced the Nekroz cards, a set of ritual monsters based around countering and punishing monsters summoned from the extra deck. I wonder if BA ever had any unfavorable matchups because of similarly designed cards. Necros was not only dominant against BA, but the entire metagame as a whole. Its consistency, power, and repeatability were astronomical, and it became one of the most defining decks of the era as a result. At Tacoma, the first event after Necros' release, Necros took up 22 of the top 32 slots, with Qliphort trailing behind at a low 6 and Burning Abyss at a disappointing 4. Yeesh. What started the format as one of the format's most poignant decks immediately was silenced by the domination of Necros monsters. Funnily enough, Burning Abyss would make yet another comeback at Prague, securing one of 2 top cut slots, one of which was a win at the hands of Valens Lecherder. You can see in his deck list that it was specifically geared to beating Necros, returning to the trap build that BA had originally moved away from, and playing cards such as Vanities and even the previously mentioned Darklaw package, which was crucial in dealing with Necros' incredible grind game. What's funny about Guatemala is there actually isn't any recorded or written coverage about the event, but it would be the last event before the April 2015 ban list, one of the largest ban lists to this date. There were a ton of hits. The Dragon Rulers, the second best deck right behind Necros, were put from 1 to 0 immediately after the release of Dark Matter Dragon, a monster that literally said Foolish Burial 3 for cost, and supporting cards such as the Baby Dragons and Dragon Ravine were brought back. Floodgates like Skill Drain and Emptiness were put to 1, crippling many decks' abilities to sack wins with. Qliphort's got a hit with their consistency, taking a nosedive, with Sacrifice and Qliphort Scout going to 1 and 2 respectively. And most importantly, Burning Abyss would have Tour Guide hit from 3 to 1, a change that wouldn't be reversed for nearly half a decade.
Tour Guide! Tour Guide! I told you! I invested in a fucking playset, dude! I told you this was a fucking investment worth it, dude!
What about Necros hits, you say? Maybe limiting Trishula to limit its blowouts per turn, banning Jin, releaser of rituals, to curb the oppression of summoning a Skill Drain and Vanities? Well, Konami listened and put Bryanek to 2 and Preparation of Rites to 1. With every deck around it made either weaker or less consistent, Necros were primed to take the stage as the premier deck of 2015. At Chicago, the first event after the new list, Necros had a dominant 17 tops while BA had 3. YCS Bogota only had 1 BA top. And unfortunately, at YCS Bochum, Burning Abyss would have its first event in a year and a half with 0 tops. One of the primary problems with BA during this period wasn't that it was inconsistent or anything of the sort. It could still make Dante and Virgil quite easily. The issue was that it was incapable of consistently dealing with Necros over the course of a match. You can only sack so many trap cards. You can only get blown out by Trishula so many times before you're just dead in the water. Most BA lists at the time were either high rolling with targeted hate towards Necros, such as Imperial Ironwall, Mind Crush, and even Trap Tricks, Trap Hole Nightmare, or the Darklaw engine, but these techs weren't enough to carry BA above anything other than an occasionally sacky deck to drown in the sea of Necros. However, BA pilots refused to let the deck die, and through their combined willpower, allowed for one of the greatest miracles to happen in Yu-Gi-Oh history, where at YCS Columbus, the first event after the new list, the deck had 3 tops, finally picking up steam again. However, the gears kept spinning, and at the NAWCQ, it managed to sneak into top 64 with 13 top cut slots and Noah Green taking the Nationals title in a Burning Abyss mirror match. It also placed modestly at the EU WCQ with 6 confirmed tops, with Alessandro De Patria placing top 4. After Nationals, Konami finally gave players a life vest in the form of the July 2015 list, putting Shuret, the primary searcher and material fodder for Necros, at 1, and Jin, releaser of rituals, to 0. Additionally, the Volleyball chain was banned as well, as players could pseudo-search Jin or any other card they may need to get to grave by using a Thousand Hands and a Unicorn as the materials. These 3 hits were critical in curbing the power of Necros, and the deck was finally able to be consistently beatable again without having to heavily rely on traps. At YCS Toronto, the first event after the new list, BA would see 8 confirmed tops and a win under Gabriel Rosenwing, sticking with the game plan, ironically, of flipping up purple cards. At Rimini, the deck would have 6 top cut slots, trailing behind Necroz's 15. Although Necroz still dominated the format, it was no longer as oppressive or unbeatable as it once was, allowing for tons of other decks to sneak in outside of just BA, such as Ritual Beast thanks to its extremely favorable Necroz matchup and Ignite. Yeah, Ignite topped. At Monterey, although data for top cut breakdowns no longer exist, BA would win another YCS under Alan Guzman, and at Dallas, it would take up 9 top cut slots, with Deception taking top 4. However, it would be after this list where Konami looked at the metagame and had enough. On November of 2015, one of the heaviest ban lists of all time would be slammed down. In terms of decks, Shaddoll was slaughtered when Construct and El Shaddoll Fusion were banned and limited respectively. Necroz was also heavily hit with the banning of Shuret and the limiting of Rhoda, Bryanak, and Unicorn, severely limiting the deck's repeatability and consistency. Cleaforts were next on the chopping block, with Towers and Scout banned and limited respectively. Even Ritual Beast got a hit, with Ulti Canahawk being put to 1. But most importantly, Burning Abyss received another hit, with Mathematician and Graph being put to 1 and Seer going to 2. Overall, the deck immediately died out with 0 tops at Sao Paulo, the first event after the list being pushed out by Performapal and Cosmo, especially due to the latter matchup for the most part being unsolved. Throughout the year, the deck ebbed and flowed, only seeing massive competitive success after ban lists where decks around it were hit, allowing a chance for it to shine, such as with Necroz hits early and late into the year. However, once BA itself was finally on the chopping block, it sadly fizzled out. But overall, 2015 would see some of the best achievements for the deck, despite its significantly lowered quantity of tops. Unfortunately, BA did not start off the year with a bang like it did in 2015. For Sydney and Atlanta, the format was dominated by Pepe, a tier 0 deck that remains one of the biggest blights on Yu-Gi-Oh history. To give you an idea of how dominant it was, before the adjusted emergency list, it took up 29 of the top 32 slots at Atlanta. At Prague, the deck saw minimal success, with a 3rd place finish at the hands of Valens yet again. Although the release of Fiendish Rhino Warrior and the Phantom Knights being released allowed for some additional avenues of play, the deck struggled from conflicting schools of thoughts that questioned whether playing additional cards to search a Fiendish Chain was good enough in the first place, and the fact of the matter that the core of the deck's gameplay was to pass on a Dante. This style of gameplay, which was absurdly problematic in 2014, was now hindering it in 2016, where decks like Pepe before the adjusted list and cards like Dweller were flying around everywhere, and it seemed like this was the point where BA would finally be laid to rest. However, we all know how this story goes. Like a goddess from heaven, Beatrice descended from the Premium Gold Infinite Gold set in March of 2016, and the deck, alongside Phantom Knights, went into overdrive. Beatrice not only served as amazing support for the BAs being played pure, but for every variant of BA, especially the Phantom Knights, who are now able to set up multiple turns of disruption and follow-up thanks to her being at 3 at the time. At Houston, BA would be played alongside the Phantom Knights, forming a deck to be affectionately called PK Fire. With Beatrice and the PKs working hand in hand with the BAs, the deck became crazy strong and would dominate once again. The deck saw 8 tops, 7 PK Fire and 1 Pure, with Jose Languene's Maitret placing top 4 with the former. You're gonna see in a lot of these lists that although Tour Guide was at 1, Fiendish Rhino Warrior did a good enough impression of her to be played as a normal summon, and Speedroid Terror Top was incredible for the archetype as well, being able to make any rank 3 with no cost other than playing the Takatamborg as a Garnet. Additionally, the inclusion of main decked Twin Twister, which was released in Breakers of Shadow in January of that year, was another powerful discard card that acted as disruption and play acceleration, since its discard cost was essentially negligible when discarding a Fiendish Rhino Warrior or a BA. Since Burning Abyss didn't utilize many spell cards outside of power spells like Foolish, Regeki, and the aforementioned Twin, it could also safely play Anti-Spell Fragrance, which helped sacking wins off of other decks. The game plan transitioned from Trap Control to making Dante and Praying for Good Mills, making a Beatrice on top, and to swarm the field with the help of the Phantom Knights and Levier, who could add an additional layer of recyclability. At Santiago, BA would finally reclaim the throne with 7 tops and a win. Funnily enough, the winner of the event literally doesn't exist online, so here's Forto Igwar's list. The punches wouldn't stop rolling, however, where at Providence, the deck would win again at the hands of Tamid Zaman with a more modest 3 top cut slots. At Oceania's WCQ, Bone and Temnik took 2nd place, and at Origins, Jacob Foewi would take the deck to a 1st place finish. This would be also the first event where Monarch BA was developed, with Darren Stephenson placing top 16s at Origins thanks to the release of the Monarch structure deck and the BAs serving as free tributes that floated. At the NAWCQ, the deck absolutely dominated, with 21 of the top 64 decks being PK Fire and 2 being Monarch BA, placing 2nd at the hands of Tommy Rowe. At the EUWCQ, although it only managed 6 confirmed tops, it also coincidentally placed 2nd at the hands of an unnamed duelist because Konami is terrible at documentation. Remedy saw modest success for BA, with 2 tops and a 4th place finish, but the deck would absolutely dominate Toronto, with 9 of the top 16 placements being BA variants, 5 PK Fire, 3 Pure, and 1 Monarch, with Bone and Temnik redeeming his Oceania performance with a win. This variant would include Pot of Desires, foregoing the fear of banishing a newly limited Speed Droid or Graph for the raw +1 advantage, whereas previous builds only played Allure of Darkness for consistency and synergies with Levier being able to revive the banished monster. However, all good things must come to an end, as Konami swung the hammer of justice, this time directly towards BA, most notably limiting both Seer and Beatrice in August of 2016. The deck would still see moderate success after these hits, taking 4 slots at Mexico City with PK Fire, but at Minneapolis, despite achieving 6 top cut slots with one of them being Monarch and a top 4 finish at the hands of Cody Angeloff, a new contender would sprout into action: Blue Eyes. Now we all know that Blue Eyes is terrible, but for a brief period of time, Blue Eyes was actually a top tier meta threat thanks to the release of Shining Victories, most specifically Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon. Spirit Dragon was a card specifically designed to split this format wide open, as its first effect to counter multiple summons at the same time was designed to counter Pendulum decks such as Metal Foes and the tribute effect of ABC Dragon Buster, and its secondary effect was great for stopping all sorts of graveyard plays, especially BAs. It was such a dominant force that it ended up actually winning Worlds in the saddest yet funniest mirror match where both players in the finals basically just bricked for 40 minutes on live television. Things wouldn't get better for BA. In October of 2016, the revamped structure decks of Yugi and Kaiba were released, and included in Kaiba's was the ABC Dragon Buster, one of the most powerful boss monsters ever seen at that point in time. The deck's relatively low cost combined with other decks far outpacing BA's ability led to the deck's downfall during the end of the year, but not before one last hurrah. At YCS Liverpool, the deck secured 4 top cut slots, 3 of them being PK Fire and 1 Pure, and would see its final win for a very long period of time at the hands of Thomas Rose, playing a 50 card variant of PK Fire, meaning targeted techs such as Chaos Hunter, Ghost Reaper, and of course the ever poignant Dark Law package in order to hold an edge against the swarm of ABC and Blue Eyes players. However, for the rest of the year, the deck would almost instantaneously disappear off the map, failing to produce results at Rio de Janeiro and Anaheim, and its one top at Bochum at the hands of Fotios Papalodiakos felt something more of a lucky break rather than indicative of the deck's actual potential. 2016 started out rough, with new decks threatening to end BA once and for all, but thanks to the release of Beatrice and Phantom Knight support, PK Fire, Monarch BA, and BA Pure would see one last stint of top tier playability until the ban list and arguably more importantly, the power creep of newer cards and decks devoured it whole. 2017 was the year of power creep, with Master Rule 4, Invoked, ABC, True Draco, and most notably Zodiac running around. Burning Abyss was left dead in the water. It was ultimately seen as far too slow, far too low ceiling, and even if it did have all of its cards back, it just couldn't stand a chance to anything relevant within the format. The deck had a total of 2 tops for the entire year, a far cry from its previous results. Overall, this seemed to be the end for BA as a whole. Remember how in 2016, a specific player by the name of Thomas Rose managed to take his pile of jank to a first place finish at Liverpool? Well, he's back at it again in the middle of the Link era at UK Nationals with a first place finish with BA thanks to the help of Sekka's Light. Sekka's Light is a spell that allows you to just straight up draw 2 cards, but it locks you out of spells and traps for the rest of the duel. Additionally, you can banish it from your graveyard to mulligan a card from your hand. Being that modern variants of BA played very little spells or traps outside of consistency boosters such as Foolish or Allure, having a literal Pot of Greed with upside was amazing for the deck as a whole, and Thomas took his pile of jank to the very top. There is a lot going on in this list. Rescue Cat was played to summon Naturia Beast by using Elephant and Gallus the Star Beast as material. Fairy Tail Snow was used as a Beatrice target. Blackluster Soldier Envoy at the beginning was being used again in synergy alongside Underclock Taker. Saravis the Ancient and Ascended was played as protection for his Naturia Beast, a pseudo Call by the Grave since it couldn't be played alongside Sekka's Light. In the deck profile, he even directly says that he won a game because he was impermed on Nat Beast and he negated it with Saravis and his opponent immediately scooped. Fabled Solulus was even played alongside Malicious to enable rank 6 plays or to get to Beatrice even faster, and even Pero Cerberus was used in other variants as both a Rescue Cat target and a form of disruption. Additionally, to compensate for the lack of disruption and negates BA had, Rose decided to max out on hand traps, playing 9 total in Valor, Ash, and Droll. BA in 2018 was looking to have a promising future. And that future was proven to be shining bright thanks to the help of Orbital Highlander, a monster that was released in 2017, but began seeing heavy play in September at the hands of Dinka Bowie and of course, Thomas Rose. Orbital Highlander was everything the deck was missing. It was a mill option, it was non-targeting removal, it was a free body. However, it did come at the cost where you had to be playing a deck specifically built around its requirement of having no duplicate monsters engraved to summon and to resolve its pop effect. This is where Fairy Tail Snow came in. If sent off of Beatrice or milled off of Dante, you could get away with running duplicate names in a Highlander deck by banishing any duplicate names in the same chain as Highlander to always guarantee the resolution of the effect. And BA pilots across the world did certainly just that, with Andres Torres winning the 200th YCS at Mexico City with Highlander Sekka BA and Dinka Bowie placing second at Utrecht's 200th YCS. The deck would see modest success in the latter half of the year, thanks to the release of Soul Fusion and the Dangers, most notably Tsuchinoko and Jackalope being level 3s and Nessie essentially functioning as one of them. The deck saw more and more enablers for a rank 3 Axis Highlander pile, picking up 2 more tops at London and Niagara each. Additionally, pilots would also play all 7 kaijus in a ploy to counter Sky Striker and Thunder Dragon and to keep in line with Hydralander's restriction. After a pitiful performance in 2017, the deck seemed to have completely died out. However, thanks to the release of individually powerful cards in Sekka's Light and Highlander alongside the mad scientist Thomas Rose, Burning Abyss, although not a tier 1 option, was definitely back in action. 2019 is in full swing and TOS format is underway. The big 4 decks of the format, Thunder Dragon, Orchist, Sky Striker, and Salamangreat are taking up the majority of top cut slots. So how is BA doing in comparison? Well, not so great. One of the biggest hits to the deck was the banning of Fairy Tail Snow on the January 2019 list. The loss of such a critically important combo and disruption piece would make Highlander BA no longer worth playing, as BA already struggled with a low power ceiling. It couldn't link spam as well as decks like Goki could, it couldn't set up huge boards the way Dragon Link could, it just felt like an inferior version of a lot of other decks that already have existed in the metagame that sacrificed all of its power and playability for consistency and recursion. At Chicago, however, Brad Smith would play a card that would push BA to an all-new dimension of playability, Block Dragon. Block Dragon remains one of the most powerful monsters in the game of what it can do. It can search when it leaves the field, it provides protection, it can summon itself multiple times per turn. It's an incredible card in decks that are able to abuse its inherent strengths. However, in BA, Brad decided to use it as a way to search out Doki Doki, which he admitted to forgetting to play in his deck for the event, and Power Giant, an extender if pitched off of Doki Doki, or when specialed from the hand by discarding a level 3 monster, usually a BA or Rhino Warrior, to modulate its level to 3 and to trigger a graveyard effect. This would be the first step in BA's development into the horrifying 3-axis monster of 2020. Other pilots experimented with the block. French Enzo would place top 16 at the French WCQ in March without any targets for the Block Dragon, playing it as a pseudo-searchable extender, and Shaquille Hall placed top 32 at Guatemala, deciding not to play it at all and using the newly released Psychic Wheedler and Tracker as a rank 3 package. However, it wouldn't be until May of 2019 until BA got the last piece of the puzzle it needed to truly go off the rails. In Dark Neostorm, Cherubini, Ebon Angel of the Burning Abyss was printed, and it was incredible. Having a generic Link 2 that could be made out of any 2 level 3s that foolished for cost was incredible not only in BA, but any deck revolving around level 3s, such as Phantom Knight. It would even be used in a number of silly FTKs, but those decks aren't really important. What was important was that the deck finally had a game plan that was able to keep up with the modern metagame, which was to link spam to your heart's content. Using a combination of the BAs and extenders that we've mentioned earlier, such as Gallus and the Dangers, and a bunch of specific Earth and Rock cards that synergize with Block Dragon, such as Giant Rex, Gigantes, and Fossil Dyna, and Curious, another generic Link monster that acts as a foolish burial, you could set up nearly unbreakable boards consisting of Synchros, Link monsters, rank 4s, Floodgate monsters, whatever your heart desired. And with the deck's primary combo now discovered, at Manchester, England's WCQ, Kian Blakey took Block BA to a second place finish with the variant of Block BA most people are familiar with, a bunch of extenders and a Fossil Dyna. 2019 was a turbulent year for the BAs. The deck was never unplayable, but it felt very unsolved, and the deck went through tons of iterations due to the ban list before all the best pieces were combined into one powerful amalgamation of Block BA, finally putting up a result at the tail end of the year. The year is 2020 and you're Block BA. You've just been discovered to have an insanely powerful combo and you're ready to make a splash. And in the regional scene, the deck definitely did place. It even had a top 16 finish at Louvre's France WCQ at the hands of Sylvain Machat. The year looked promising for these demons to run rampant in the competitive scene yet again. Well, their dreams were ultimately cut short with the release of Secret Slayers and Dual Devastator. Thanks to Hauka Firebrax's Link Cross Auroradon combos that plagued this era, combined with the absolute degeneracy that Adamancipator and Synchron Eldritch could pull off, Block BA was seen as a much more fragile and inconsistent variant of these decks. As a result, despite the deck's potential power, it was ultimately discarded in favor of these more consistent and powerful decks. However, the People's Champ would rise up once again, as Din Kabui would place first and top 4 at 2 German online events representing Old Faithful, half BAs, and half trap cards. However, these are seen as more of flash-in-the-pan type scenarios and more representative of Din's skill as a player rather than of the deck as a whole. To make matters worse, when Block Dragon was banned as a result of Adamancipator's sins in September of 2020, the deck was already poised to be power crept out by the Tri-Brigades and Virtual Worlds that were to be released just months later. With yet another hit to the BAs, the deck seemed finally dead in all of its forms. Overall, this year marked the end of BA's serious competitive success. It became apparent that any future success that this deck would see would be primarily in part due to the pilot's skill, plus just a ton of luck just because of how far the deck had fallen from grace. They are demons after all. Not much is happening in the year 2021. I began uploading videos full time. That's something, I guess. Due to a lack of events and decks that have power crept this archetype, BA was poised to fail, but not after a couple slips into top cut by some talented players. In February, Andres Torres returned and placed top 8 at a PPG event with Burning Abyss, main decking Mischief of the Gnomes to send off a Beatrice to interfere with synchro plays from Virtual World and opting in to tunnel in on Hand Traps, Sekka's Light, and Dragoon of Red Eyes. Gabriel Vargas also followed suit, placing first at the remote duel qualifier, however opting for trap cards instead of hand traps. What's interesting to note is that thanks to Phantom Rage, the deck did gain access to Zeus, one of the most powerful XE support cards of all time. But then again, so did literally every other deck that could make an Xyz monster. And that's it! So how good was Burning Abyss actually? For the most part, it's always fluctuated in how viable it's been throughout the years. It started off as a top 3 to 5 deck with problematic matchups to arguably the best deck of 2016, to it being out power crept over the past 6 years. It's always had issues within its archetype and within the metagame that were either solved through the ban list or Konami literally printing new cards, but overall, it's been an amazing deck that's definitely had its moment in the sun, and it's finally having a chance to rest. I mean, what other decks can you say were released in 2014 that are viable? Ghost Trick?
Oh, come on.
Thank you so much for watching. If you have a suggestion for an archetype you want to see talked about, leave it in the comments section down below. Huge shoutouts to Arashel and Korean for being the primary researchers for this video, and to Hassan and ChoccyMilk for providing historical context and answering questions about the format at the time. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.